Hey everyone, it's uh, it's definitely been a while, and not just me since I've been doing vlogging. I mean, just since how long it's been since the Batman has been out. But regardless, I'm back. That part is important as well, and it's been a few weeks now since the Batman has been out. So I will, I'll try to keep spoilers to a minimum as much as possible. But yeah, so I saw the Batman not too long ago, and I definitely have to say, I was not disappointed at it. It was definitely a different kind of superhero movie, which was great, which is definitely a good thing, because the biggest thing that I liked about this film was it brought out the detective aspect of Batman, and Batman being the world's greatest detective, that's a big part and big piece to the Batman mythos. It's a big piece of what makes Batman such a great superhero. It really, this film feels more like a thriller and murder mystery than it does a superhero film. And that's what makes this movie stand out compared to like the MCU or other DC films. And so I'm gonna go into the positive parts of the film, and then I'll go to the not so favorite parts. So Robert Pattinson is in the Batsuit a majority of the film, like a good 95% of the film. So you are definitely getting a Batman movie. I will say that much. It's not like Bruce Wayne, or it's not like the Dark Knight where you occasionally just see Bruce in the bat suit, or it's just about Bruce Wayne and dealing with philanthropy, business stuff. This is a Batman movie, and Matt Reeves makes sure of that. There's hardly any Bruce Wayne scenes. Scenes where Bruce is not the in the suit, thankfully, which I'll get to that later on. But it is definitely worth. If you want to see Batman, you're gonna get Batman a majority of the time. So definitely make time use of it if you're a big Batman fan. Another big aspect of I liked is how this movie adopted adapt some of the other more Batman mythos and story arcs, like the Long Halloween arc, and the Long Halloween, for those who don't know, is a pretty big is one of the more iconic Batman stories in the Batman mythos, and it's a murder mystery that has Catwoman, Falcone. I think the Penguin is in it. I can't remember if he was in the comic story arc, but regardless, it definitely does take a big aspect from that part, and it being a murder mystery with Riddler as giving off more of a Zodiac killer kind of vibe, which, by the way, Paul Dano looks like I don't know why. Paul Dano just reminds me of a cross of Mike Myers and Edward Snowden. I don't know. That film just gave off those kind of vibes. Don't ask why. And another thing I really enjoyed was the soundtrack and the music score. Oh my god. I mean, this film, like, Batman practically has his own theme in this. You know how, like, Vader has the dun 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 dun, like how Vader does, or Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees have their own theme. This Batman has his own theme with this, and it is beautiful. I use this theme to study. That's how beautiful it is. It helps me concentrate, and it's clearly helped me pass my schoolwork. So it is definitely amazing. It is. I also give props to to the movie having a Nirvana song that really isn't, super common or super well known, especially to the younger generation. So, and now making it like one of the top rated songs on Spotify and other like music listening networks. It's definitely a cool thing, and how, make another film, a comic book film specifically, taking a song that you don't often really hear from a popular band, and then now making that, the next big popular thing. And another thing I enjoyed about this was how Pattinson fights like the Batman. Specifically, like, more of like the Batman Arkham games. Like, especially during like the opening sequence where Batman is facing those, like, those makeup clown gang guys. He, like, he has the counters, he has his utilities. He has that electric thing. I don't know if it was from his gauntlets or whatever, but he definitely fought like it was an Arkham style Batman. And that's what I like about it, is, being a big fan of the Arkham games. And another thing I like was the inner self monologue at the beginning and the end of the film. It was pretty much straight out of a comic book, like when you first open a comic book and you see like the character kind of like talking to themselves with the rectangles. They're like having a conversation with themselves. They're thinking to themselves. It was beautiful. It was pretty much a very Batman thing in this movie. So it very much did feel like a comic book movie. And another thing that I also enjoyed was how, so during like almost before like the ending, like it's like basically at the end of the climax, where where Batman is interrogating the Riddler, and Pattinson's eyes are just doing the acting in certain shots, when like it was almost like thought, oh my gosh, the Riddler knows Bruce Wayne is Batman. But it turns out, it was just, Riddler was just teasing Batman into thinking that, he made Batman think that, we almost got Bruce Wayne, that fat cat. But yeah, there are definitely some scenes where Pattinson's eyes are doing the talking, and that scene in particular is definitely a big part. So definitely kudos to Robert Pattinson for that. There weren't too many cons in this film, thankfully, but no film is perfect. So I'm gonna start with the obvious. With Pattinson, didn't feel like Bruce Wayne. He just didn't. Like I mean, he was a good Batman. Don't get me wrong. It's like, but he just didn't feel like he was Bruce Wayne. It's like the same thing with, Andrew Garfield was a good Spider-Man, but he didn't feel like Peter Parker. This is kind of like another one of those scenarios where Pattinson, he made a good Batman. He was very intimidating as a Batman, as you can see in this film. Definitely one of the more intimidating Batmans we've seen in recent history, or film, or whatever. But, his Bruce Wayne is just not who he is, He's got that emo, like, hair almost covering his eyes, and, the way he talks to Alfred is just, Bruce would never talk that way to Alfred, like, if anything, Bruce sees Alfred as practically as a father. And just that line where, where Bruce said, Alfred's not his dad, I mean, it just, it kind of didn't sit right with me, because, like, to anyone who's ever read a Batman comic, Alfred plays a big role in his life. That's just, Bruce has always grown up with Alfred before Batman, and even especially during as being Batman. You know, Alfred has been through with Bruce thick and thin. He's always going to be. And, you know, just the way that Bruce kind of treats Alfred like dirt is just not pretty cool. I mean, you could also make the secular argument, you know, this is Batman's early years. This is like his second year of being the Batman. So, you know, there's kind of like some sake of, you know, oh, Master Bruce, what you're doing is wrong. You should be out there more with the public, Master Wayne. Stuff like that, you know. But it just didn't sit right with me with how Bruce Wayne was interpreted in this movie. And another thing that kind of like a little didn't really sit right with me was the scene when Batman was escaping the precinct. He's at the top of the tower, you know, he's getting his glider suit on, and he just looks like a flying squirrel. I mean, okay, you know, I get the film is trying to go with the realism aspect, and fine, whatever, but why not just have Batman glide? Or just have him use his grappling hook? I mean, it just make this pretty cool and serious moment, and it just kind of makes it look silly. And having him hit like the, I think it was a tunnel when he was trying to land on the bus, or a bridge. He was trying to get on the bus, and he hits like a tunnel or a bridge, and you know, it just turned that moment into kind of a silly moment. I don't know. It just seemed sort of Marvel-like. I don't know. It didn't feel like a Batman moment for me. And like I said, it's Batman's early years, so Batman's gonna make his mistakes. He's gonna learn from the stuff. He's gonna make more allies. He's gonna be more trustworthy. But still, you know, it's Batman. Batman's supposed to be badass and intimidating, and to see him as this flying squirrel, and, you know, it was just weird. I don't know. The Riddler was also kind of cool. Him being sort of like a Zodiac killer figure was different. He was different, not in a bad way. I mean, he definitely told riddles, part of his gimmick, obviously. And Riddler is more upset with like the corruption and the political figures in this movie. And, you know, politics and corruption is a big thing in Gotham, in both films and comics. It's always been that way, because that's what Batman does. Batman is about, you know, bringing people to justice, whether they're supervillains or they're people in high power in some way. That's how Bruce is fighting to make better change, whether as Bruce Wayne or dressing as a giant bat. But overall, if I had to grade this movie, I give this an A-. Selena Kyle was pretty good in this movie. Zoe Kravitz, is it pronounced? She's very pretty, I will say. I definitely enjoyed this movie overall. I definitely would recommend it. I would like to see, if possible, I'm sure, I know there's going to be a Penguin series on HBO Max later on, but, you know, I definitely would like to see an extended universe based on Reeves' Batman. And especially with how this movie was handled, being much more darker and handling much more into the corruption and politics and, like, mysteries and murder, you know. Like, there are definitely some villains that could definitely work in this franchise. You could have Anarchy or Deacon Blackfire, Hush. I mean, there are certain villains who we have not seen yet on big screen who can definitely work in this film. And Anarchy in particular, who is a very big, I'm sure you could tell by the name, is a very political aspect in the Batman lore. I think he would definitely make a good addition to like a future sequel or some sort of spin-off. Oh, and the Joker sort of makes a cameo. It's kind of a quick thing. It exists. I mean, good to know he exists. The Joker has been like done like what 5 times in like the past 15 years. At this point, it just gets kind of old, and yeah, I'm sure we probably won't have to worry too much about the Joker in sequels since he's already in Arkham, but I would definitely like to see Anarchy or Deacon Blackfire or Hush, especially with that Hush little Easter egg reference. But hopefully Matt Reeves does extend the lore of the Batman universe and we get to see more of the darker and detective aspect of the Batman as we did in this film. So yeah, so I definitely do recommend it at some point. It'll be out on HBO Max soon, so do go check it out if you haven't seen it in theaters. And yeah, until next time.